Well, congratulations, Barker. You finally found a team that your team can beat. Well done.
Yeah, I missed you too, bud. Jeez.
What?
Yeah, they are the Rockies of the American League. You're right. You're spot on.
The Angels are.
Yeah.
The Angels are not very.
Way to come out of swinging, though.
What?
How you doing, buddy?
Doing great.
Hey, I know you missed me.
I did miss you.
Do not lie. And so you didn't miss me, and you didn't miss this show, and you didn't miss the Blue Jays, and you didn't miss the American League East. So all those things, if you said you did or you didn't, you lie.
Yeah, 2 of 4. No, I had a nice time. My mother's 100th birthday.
Wow.
Family reunion. Had like 82 people there.
That's awesome.
Shout out to everybody. Hopefully everybody made it home
Very cool.
safely. Lots of baseball talk. A lot of Blue Jays fans. A lot of people want Ross fired.
Not happening. It's not happening.
I swear to God, man.
They are running it back.
I swear to God.
I can't even go to the grocery store, and that's the first thing somebody walks up to me.
I heard.
Man, woman, child.
That's all I heard.
4-year-old child.
From Comox, BC to
This is the only thing I get.
Coquitlam, BC to Bonneville, Alberta to Regina, Saskatchewan to East St. Paul, Manitoba to Morden to Thunder Bay. They all want one thing.
Yep.
Ross Atkins can.
Ain't happening.
And they all seem to think that I had the power to do it.
Huh.
Anyhow, it's Blair and Barker. Good to be back. The Blue Jays, they get a day off in Chicago after hammering the Los Angeles Angels. Boy, they took the Angels out to the woodshed, didn't they?
Angels are awful.
What?
They're awful.
Yeah, they are truly god-awful.
Anthony Rendon's the worst overpaid third baseman in the history of the sport.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He is. Ever since he said that he doesn't care about baseball,
well, listen,
I got no time for that dude.
If you played for the Angels, you'd probably feel the same way.
Every time I walked to the bank or rode my really expensive car to the bank and put that card in that machine.
The Jays are now 57-64. They are 7 games under 500. The last time they were 7 games under 500 was July 28th. I think Joe Biden was still president.
Do you care if they finish the season above 500?
Do I care?
Yeah. Like, do you think the fans that are, just in tuned on an everyday basis to the Blue Jays are going, got to get that record above 500?
I'm
in the camp. I could care less.
It would be nice, but I mean, I couldn't. Yeah,
Why does it matter?
It would be nice to be over 500, but I mean, if they're a game or 2 under, it's, far from what we expected at the start of the year. So, I mean, I think for an organization playing 500 ball, I guess it's something you can hang your hat on. I kind of look at it a little differently. And I admit, I haven't looked at the standings. If they can get to within 5 games of a wild card, finish the year 5 games within 5 games of the wild card, something like that, it wouldn't make me happy. But I'd be more interested in that because that shows your strength relative to the rest of the league. I mean, if you finish 500 and you're 7.5 games out, and it doesn't matter. But if you can get to within 5 or something like that, because again, it shows where you are, relative to everybody else. Yeah, but I mean, no, I'm more interested in seeing. At this point, I'm more interested in seeing individual things. I'm more interested in seeing Yariel Rodriguez, some of these, the Will Wagners, the Leo Jimenez, the Davis Schneiders, the Ernie Clements, Joey Loperfido. I need to see that they're more than just guys, because right now I think they're just guys. Like Will Wagner could very well be this week's Davis Schneider. And that's, hey, you've got to find out. You've got to find out, right? I do know this. And again, I always talk about, I don't pay a great deal of attention to rankings, organizational rankings, but MLB Pipeline came out with their new rankings of the minor league systems, and despite all those trades that Jays made, they're still like 25th or 24th. So they've gone up by 1.
Yep.
But it'd be nice. It'd be nice to find out what you have in some of these guys. Listen, for me, I'm really. We've talked about this, but I'm paying attention to Spencer Horwitz as much as I am Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Because if I can get an a left-hand hitting everyday bat that can play second base for me. That's one thing I can take off my list next year. I'm kind of interested in seeing how Alejandro Kirk holds up, but it's not something I'm not staying up at night and breaking down every one of Alejandro Kirk's at bats. I'd like to see where Vladdy finishes, and when I say where he finishes, I like to see what his final numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
Our boss, one of our bosses, Dan Toman, came by the office today when I was there. And allegedly it was to see Ryan Fabro, but I know the real reason he came by is because he knew I was back, and he just wanted to remind me that at the start of the year, he said Vladdy was going to finish in the top 5 in minor league.
In minor league?
Or in MVP.
I don't think it was top 5.
In MVP. Yeah, he said top 5. And I said, I agreed with you, but I pointed out that Barker took offense to that suggestion. No.
Yeah, top 5 is a bit strong. It's not
got
crazy.
A shot. I mean, he's got a shot, depending on what his final numbers are. Depending on
all the 25 games from the All-Star break have shown you they're 13-12. Vladdy's hitting 457 OPS of over almost 1,500. He's got 11 homers and 25 RBIs. They're 13-12. Yeah. It's just hammering home exactly what they need in the offseason. Like, he can't do it by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I've brought that Soto thing up with Judge. Like, they knew going into the season that Judge can't do it by himself. Even with the numbers in the 25 games, they're 13-12. Like, that's – you want to get off to a good start, go out and get you a couple of aircraft carriers. Hopefully you can kiss and make up with Bo Bichette and, get him healthy, and hopefully he's running and ready to go. And now you add a little length, and you try and find out whether these Joey Lower
Fido.
Well, I mean, that's sort of the way he's been looking. I mean, that's not a lie, right?
You mean Jopi lower average.
Well, the 18 punches and 39 at-bats. And
that's not good.
I know Hazel does a tremendous job, and she gets things that most people don't. And she was doing that hit about, that Joey went into John's office and said, this 18 punches and 39 at-bats is not me as a player. Hang with me. Boy, if I'd have knew that's all it took, Jeff, when I played, it'd be every day. Hey, Skip, what you were seeing or not seeing is not me.
Wait, did he when he was acquired by the Jays? Did he fail to take his ability to hit a fastball across customs or something like that?
It is amazing.
Did he not check that off in his little thing?
It is amazing that you can look at stats with one team. He's hitting somewhere around a 320 mark on the fastball. He gets to the Jays with the 19 hitting coaches. He acts like he ain't never walked to the plate with a bat in his hand. I mean, I had nothing against him. I saw him take batting practice. He's got plenty of power. Like, he's going third deck, right center. Like, he's got plenty of that in the tank. It's just, how do you tap into it? And then we had John on, and John saying when he ain't playing against them lefties, they got a program. What's program mean, Jeff?
What are they? Is that the? I don't.
That's like hooking. That's like hooking him up to a robot, putting him in a batting cage. I mean, this is not rocket science. Again, they try and turn this thing into, and that's the first thing I thought of whenever John said they got a program. They got a program. You can tell a little bit, too, with whenever he does put a ball in play and he runs through first base. And, just look. The demeanor and the I told you, dude, this ain't going to work. It's like you can see it, man. It's just not hard. Like, just hand him a bat and say, show me how to hit a fastball to the pull side in the air. Show me. Can you do it? And then work from there. Like, this gets back to that. It's not rocket science. And, again, they got to find out if one of these lefties can play every day, right? Even Spencer Horwitz is hitting $175 against lefties at 40 at-bats. Like, he's having his issues against lefties, right? You got to find out if one of the lefties that they got up can do it against a lefty, too. And that's going to be the thing, right, is they can't play matchup with everybody. They got to find some guys that can play every day, give them 145 games. And one of these lefties is going to have to turn out giving them some competitive at-bats against a tough left-handed pitcher.
We, by the way, are going to go to the back leg line later on in the show. 416-413-3959 is the number to call. Leave us a voicemail. Bobby Valentine will join us. Mike Scioscia as well. We'll talk to Mike Scioscia about he's managing the Team USA in the 2024 Premier 12 competition. We'll talk to him about international baseball and the future of Major League Baseball players taking part in the Olympics, which I don't think will ever happen, and I hope it never happens.
Why? Hope?
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the men's basketball team, you can take a little energy from that and say, they took a lot of pride in trying to win that thing for their country.
The difference is it's not in the middle of their season. Like you can't do it. You can't do it in L.A. You're going to be doing it around the trade deadline, after the trade deadline.
All-Star break somewhere in there.
Well, no, the Olympics aren't going to schedule themselves around baseball's All-Star break. You're going to play baseball when the Olympics tell you you're going to play baseball.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, it's just not doable. That doesn't mean that, people won't try to make it work and put the round peg in the square hole. Or square
they
peg
can make money off of it. They'll try.
Well, the only people that make money off that are the International Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
I think it's a silly idea, but hey, I understand there's a lure to the Olympic. I get all that, but it's just the scheduling is going to be a bit of an issue.
Absolutely.
And I cannot imagine major league owners would say, "Sure, let's shut it down for 2 weeks." And while you're at it, take our best players and. Yeah.
What can go wrong?
Oh, boy. And while you're at it, do it around the trade deadline, too. So that'd be really good. So we can trade a guy when he's with Team USA, and then he can get hurt. That's right. I mean, it's just when you think of it, it's just a stupid idea. It's an idea that really isn't worth the time.
So why should we have him on then?
Because he's Mike Scioscia, and you can talk to him about a whole bunch of stuff. No, listen, I understand people. It's a whole let's grow the game thing. Grow the game thing.
It is.
Yeah. You know what? Basketball isn't growing because it's in the Olympics. Basketball is growing because it has LeBron and great players. It's got nothing to do with the Olympics. I mean, it really doesn't. But anyhow, we'll talk about that. I mean, I'm just being honest.
I'm not sure it's a fair take.
Can you see baseball shutting down for the Olympics?
Absolutely not. But it's a fun topic to talk about.
I guess.
I mean, if you're an owner of a baseball team, you ain't doing it. You ain't allowing that to happen.
No.
You ain't allowing, anybody to go that matters on your team when you're trying to win a World Series, and you know how much money you can make from when the playoffs start to if you could make it all the way in those 11 games to the World Series.
Now, do I think that the fact baseball is in L.A.? Listen, I'm sure this will come out. But anyhow, I want to go. I wanted to look back at last night's win, 9-2, the Jays beating the Los Angeles Angels. 28th multi-homer game for the Jays this year.
Yeah.
Clement, Varsho, Guerrero, each with home runs. They're on pace for their lowest team home run total since 2008.
Yep.
And I wanted to ask you about home runs. Mm-hmm. Power pitching wins, power hitting wins, and we know that, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. Jose Barrios had a pretty good game last night, but again, he gave up another home run. This one, what was it, a one-out home run in the fifth. He had a 6-0 lead in the first pitch change, which I love the way Caleb Joseph said, why are you throwing a first pitch changeup? You're not changing up off anything.
Because he feels good about his mechanics. You know why he is. Yeah, because he can't.
Didn't work.
Why? Give up a solo shot. Don't give up crooked ones.
Until that point, the only hit was a double by Ward. Jose Barrios, this staff in general has allowed a lot of home runs. Is that just? Look, I don't think I don't think they have meetings at the start of the year and Pete Walker says, guys, you know what we really need to do? We need to try to lead the major leagues in home runs allowed. So I don't think there's like a groupthink thing happening here.
Yep.
Is this just simply a matter of older guys, maybe not as many bullets as they've had in the past?
Gosman's got 2 pitches. That's why he gives up a lot of homers. He's trying to reinvent himself. The velocity is very moody. You know, when you don't consistently throw as hard as you used to, whenever you want to throw it, you give up homers because you're not so much a location guy as you are a stuff guy. Barrios gives up a ton of that. You know, that slurve is a slurve. It is exactly the way you say it. It sounds and sometimes looks like that. And when it looks like a slurve, that thing gets backlegged and you don't get it back. So I like the adjustments he's made. He's throwing more sinkers. He's adding in the four-seamer, which is a big deal. He likes the changeup now against the lefties, which is set up with the sinker and the four-seamer. When you're in the zone 76% of the time, you get 10 called strikes like he did on 25 sinkers yesterday. That's how you go deeper in games, right? That makes your slurve better. You can throw 24 of them. You can get 7 called strikes. You can get 4 whiffs, right? You can be more unpredictable because of the way you're using your sinker on the edges, and you sprinkle in the 4-seamer, which you threw 14 times or 15 times. It makes it easier for him to get away with certain things. I think they've gotten away from pitching down. Stop pitching up. That's very hard to do. Like that top of the zone, you got to be perfect with that pitch. If you miss a little down with a guy that knows how to hit, you're not getting that back, right? That's a lot of what the Blue Jays are doing. And they, sometimes like to fall in love because of the khakis with the secondary stuff. A lot of that bullpen don't have good enough stuff to just outstuff people, right? They got to set it up. They got to locate it. They got to tunnel it the right way. Just gets back to, this is why I said this is not a hard fix if you got money to spend and you know how to spend it in the right spots, right? You go out and get you dudes that done it before. Grown men. And now hopefully that's what they do. So, yeah, look, do you like leading baseball and giving up this many homers? No. But I think they know how to fix it. I think that's the key here is a little of that, too, was what you say is going through.
Right. That's a good point.
Well, you show up with that Astros lineup and you go, man, look at that thing. Wow. I'm going to pound this on. Because I know if I give up a solo shot, I give up a 2-run homer in the first inning.
Here comes Jordan Alvarez on my team.
Bregman, who is smoking. Altuve, wow, what's going on here? And it's just a plethora of dudes that know how to, use the big part of the field and get a big hit when it matters the most. So, yeah, look, we've said this and we'll continue to say it. The roster's not good enough. They need to fix the edges of it. That includes the pitching staff with what you're trying to add with the aircraft carrier. It's not a rocket science thing, and I give you that too. I'm going to tell you this. You just mentioned the hits, give the home runs. The Jays are 10th in hits in the 25 games. They're 11th in runs. They're 2nd in doubles. They're 13 and 12. Their best players hitting over 450. Got an OPS of almost 1,500. Got 11 big ones with 25 stakes. They're 13 and 12, Jeff. Yep. I don't need a khaki to come tell me what's going on and why it's going on. And I believe in Kirk. No, your best player's doing best player things, and you're still 13 and 12. So he needs help. It's a no-brainer. As long as you got the money to spend, try and spend it in the right places to get him help, get the player back who plays short, happy, healthy, hitting in the 2-hole, put the right guys where they're supposed to be in the lineup. Hopefully they got, 5 or 6 guys who can give you 140 games. You go out and get you a closer. You can put Chad Green in the 8th inning. Now you're cooking with gravy. Do what you want with Romano. I just solved it for him, Jeff.
You mentioned Alejandro Kirk.
Yeah.
And he, as we've said, he's getting an extended run here. With the trade of Danny Jansen. It's interesting, by the way, the Rockies put Elias Diaz on waivers today. I mean, he's hitting 200, I think, since July. All-star catcher, mind you. Just going to put 2 and 2 together there. But, I mean, it appears as if with this increased workload,
yep,
he's not worse than he was earlier this year.
Nope.
Should we be prepared to change our opinion about Alejandro Kirk? If he can finish this year strongly,
yeah,
we change our opinion on him.
Only reason we care about Alejandro Kirk is they're not hitting. That's the only reason we care, right? And now that puts a spotlight on Kirky. If they get guys in here that they should be getting in here to help out Bo and Vladdy and maybe a limited George Springer, do we care about who catches? I don't care. Like, I don't care how many games Kirky catches. The only reason we're talking about this and having a conversation about it is because they're not hitting. One of their best players has been hurt most of the year, and when he did play, he didn't look like he knew how to hit. That's why. So, again, this gets back to that thing, right, where it's right in front of you. Like, that's not the first thing I worry about. Like, I'm not going out and spending a bunch of money on a dude who can play every day. If I have to trade the assets that I got this year's trade deadline to maybe get me a young catcher who I can evolve into pushing the right button and blocking and being a decent thrower, all you want, right? I mean, how many catchers nowadays catch 100 games? Caleb talks about this all the time. So if you get you a couple dudes who catch 80 games, 75 games, one catches 90, like,
If you build your lineup right, you're looking at Alejandro Kirk hitting down in the
absolutely
order
with Varsho down there, right? With maybe whoever's playing left and maybe whoever the third baseman is. That could be Clement, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? If you bring in the guys you're supposed to bring in, who cares about who is filling in the other blanks?
No, that's fair.
I mean, it's not a hard fix if you just spend whatever that money is, and that's the big caveat here, right? Is how much do they have to spend? And if they got enough to go out to get them a couple, I don't care who catches.
Yeah, and Mark Shapiro has been. I think he's been pretty clear when he's been asked about this. He certainly doesn't sound like somebody who is expecting anything in the way of a major cut to payroll. I would think if they would have maybe been a little more proactive at the trade deadline. And as Mark said, I think the ownership's commitment to payroll was reflected by the way the Jays handled themselves. At the deadline, even kicking in money in a couple of instances to get players that they want. But yeah, look, you're absolutely right. It's the rest of this year to me is finding out how many. And Buck made this point yesterday. I thought it was, and I love the way he just kind of worked it in the broadcast and just kind of left it there, because Buck was talking about, okay, you are evaluating your guys, but his point was you have to evaluate your players by comparing them to what else is in the AL East. And he just mentioned it, just kind of stood back from it and let it breathe.
Yeah.
And
I want to give you credit. You've been saying that forever. Compare it to the Orioles lineup, the Yankees lineup. Who was in that lineup?
Buck's point was, it's not just one thing to say, well, we've seen improvement from Davis. Well, if you've seen improvement from Davis Schneider, is he good enough to be an everyday player in the American League East? How many teams in the AL East would he start for? And I think that has to be with Barger, with Jimenez, with Schneider. Again, Horwitz, I really want him to be my everyday second baseman. And I'm just going to say right now, he's going to be my second baseman next year because I got other stuff to worry about.
Yep.
And you know what? If I have to, I can find a platoon at second base if the lefty thing is that big a deal.
Shouldn't be hard.
I'm fine with that. But I need to find it's not that I need to find out because I think Clement, Schneider, Jimenez, Barger, Loperfido, I just don't think they're everyday guys in the American League East.
Yeah, I
really don't.
I don't either, but I do like Ernie. I like Ernie, what he does.
Oh, yeah, Ernie's got
he can play shortstop, which is a big deal. The unknown with Bo's right leg, that's what it is. It's an unknown. You need a dude that's not sort of going to miss a beat that can hit, if he does have to fill in, is going to play shortstop. You don't care if the ball's hit to him, can hit the bottom of your order and give you a competitive at bat. And, again, I don't want to say slump-proof, but he got an opportunity to, be consistent with where the barrel's going.
Yeah, the Jays have the makings of a really good bench. Unfortunately, 5 of them are starting.
Yeah. Yeah, Addison Barges for me is not a big leaguer. Will Wagner, there's an unknown there. Joey Loperfido, I mean, boy, you got 19 hitting coaches all trying to poke at that. How's that going to end up? Who you have any idea? Davis Schneider's 5 for his last 47. That's a 106 average. He's got 22 Ks and that's 47 at bats. He's hitting 191 with a 588 OPS against lefties. That's, for me, the only stat that matters. Yeah. If you're going to be right-handed and not play every day, you got to get it down and have just a one-way ticket to back leg city, and he don't do that against lefties. See him at bats yesterday? They were no bueno. So, for me, he's working his way out of not being a big leaguer either. I mean, he's a tremendous dude. He works hard. I mean, it ain't the tri-league, is it?
No, and I think
especially going into next season.
I think the rest of the league has caught up to him. 416-413-3959 is the back leg line. Fill it up. Give us a call. Leave us a voice note. Listen to Barker when you call up and leave us comments, questions, observations, et cetera, et cetera. We're doing it today because we won't be doing the back leg line tomorrow. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk radio only following an afternoon game against the Chicago Cubs. So we're going to do the back leg line today. And I noticed that you did Schneider yesterday.
Yep.
Which is understandable because today's an off day. It would have been nice if you'd waited.
Tomorrow's a day game.
Would have been nice if you'd waited, but not that it particularly.
Lose, you lose, buddy. He was good, too. That's solid questions, as usual.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I'll go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I bet you will.
I will indeed.
Yeah, I bet.
I absolutely will. Bobby Valentine is a former MLB player and manager. He's the Angels TV analyst. We'll talk to Bobby Valentine about the Angels, about what he saw from the Blue Jays. We're going to talk about managing your team down the stretch when you're doing what the Blue Jays are doing, when you're trying to figure out what you have for next year. How do you go about evaluating that? How do you go about handling that situation? Bobby Valentine joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Nice to see I have the same level of respect that I had when I left here. It's Blair and Barker. It's okay, Derek. Just relax. I'm just having fun.
Huh?
Gee.
Fun?
Well,
who are you?
Poking fun.
Yeah.
Man.
It's very odd. Fun and Blair.
It is Blair and Barker. It's an off day for the Blue Jays, and they'll get back at it tomorrow. An afternoon game in Chicago. We'll be on following the game, radio only, with Blue Jays Talk. Is that
winning edition?
Is that an Apple game? Friday Apple game?
Man, let's hope not.
I do believe it.
That was rude. I apologize.
Is it really? We have Ryan Spielberg's on all the time.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, then man up the next time we have him on and say.
Well, I'm going to say something about the right-hand corner whenever it tells you the line drive percentage and a 2-1 count.
The probability?
14.5%. Like, that's a useless stat that I don't need to be reading during a baseball game. I'm sorry.
The probability of.
Like, what is happening to baseball? Really?
I got news for you. You know what? Numbers are taking over.
Yeah. Well, okay.
It's the cackification.
It is. They have. Shall I say? I don't want to say they ruined it because there is a place for it. It's just.
You're overreacting to it.
You don't speak for me.
Seriously, you're overreacting. It's all good. Everything's good.
I do wonder why the league is hitting a little over 260 off the fastball, though. I do wonder that.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I always thought you made it to the big leagues because you could hit the old good number one. Why are you not hitting it at the big league level? I mean, they throw it the same way in the minor leagues. They just the breaking balls and how they can throw those in certain locations. That's the difference. That has no difference of the fastball.
Did you see that pitch, by the way? We're watching MLB now.
That's the curveball. So I'm telling you.
Mason Miller pitching.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the Jays swept the Los Angeles Angels in their 3-game series in L.A., capping it off with a 9-2 win last night. The Jays are 57-64. They're 7 games under 500. That's where they were on July 28th, so they're gradually working their way up. They've got a 3-game series against the Cubs at Wrigley Field starting tomorrow. We're very pleased to be joined by former MLB manager and player and Angels TV analyst, Bobby Valentine. Bobby, thank you very much for joining Kevin and me on Blair and Barker. It's always good to talk to you. We appreciate your time. So you've just seen the Jays now for 3 games against the Angels, and just want to get your thoughts on this team and in particular what you've seen from Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Hi, guys. Good being with you. I'll tell you, Jeff, when you look at a team and the team's best players playing better than anybody else on the field, with either team, you're pretty impressed with what you're looking at. And right now, Vladdy Jr., looks like he's in another world, understanding and looking a lot like his dad, I might add, by his reach and his ability to expand the zone. And I won't call it the strike zone because it's only a strike when he swings at it in that zone if he misses. And, he doesn't miss that much. So this is a special baseball player playing at a very high level.
Bobby, as a manager, do you care about records when you're trying to figure out if players are part of your future going into next season? Like the Blue Jays are 7 games under 500. That's the only reason I'm asking. And they're trying to figure out if certain players are going to be a part of that. Do you care, like, if you finish above 500?
Well, do I care personally? Absolutely, because that's the record that goes on my resume for the rest of my life. Yet, when evaluating and doing things the correct way, you have to allow this team to breathe with these young players so you can evaluate exactly what you have going forward. Now, hey, the stars might align themselves, and the young players might be doing everything they need to do, and the pitching might be great, and the bullpen might get everyone out, and before you know it, you're right in the thick of things, and while you're evaluating, you're also moving up in the standings, and that's the perfect world.
Yeah, Bobby, we had John Schneider on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about having a meeting with his team after the trade deadline, and it was a meeting mainly with his veterans, and basically what he said is, and I think it was aimed at the veteran pitchers, was, look, this is where we are. You're going to see some funky lineups. You're going to be out there. You're going to see, maybe 3 guys who started the year at AAA Buffalo in your infield. That's just the way it is. This is what we have to do. How does a manager's role change, Bobby, when you're in a situation where, I'm not going to say you're playing out the string, but you've got guys with established track records and guys who are well-established veterans, and they're used to something being done a certain way, and now they've got some guys out there. There may be some mistakes they're not used to seeing. How do you handle that as a manager?
Well, I want everyone to understand what's going on as a manager. With all due respect to John and to the veterans that he was talking to, it's a family affair, and if you want to make sure that people understand what's going on moving forward, I think you need to have the voice of the leader to tell them. Otherwise, you start playing that telephone game, and as it's being passed down from the veterans to the mid-level, from the mid-level to the rookies, that's like playing telephone, and a little message gets lost. So, I think you have to let them know, exactly what you're doing. The way you win is by playing baseball in a competitive fashion, and you want to let the young guys know that you're never going out there thinking you're putting out a lineup that is anything less than a lineup that could compete against the opposition and win.
Okay, Bobby, if you're say, whenever, I hate to keep going back to when I was a player, but the only way I'm going to ask this question is whenever I was a player, whenever I saw the manager was never a good thing. I was that 23rd, 24th, 25th guy, and normally that was a bad thing.
Yeah.
It was a bad thing. That means you were going to the minor leagues most of the time. But I wonder, like a Joey Loperfido, who was traded from the Astros to the Blue Jays, who's gotten off to a really, really rough start, right? And it's more about the hitting coaches and your teammates than it is the manager. If you're the manager of the Blue Jays and say a Joey Loperfido was, had 18 strikeouts and 39 at-bats, what would be your role as a manager trying to get him through it? I guess the mental side of it.
Yeah, just trying to understand, from whence he came, especially in today's world, different than my world of managing and your world of playing. Today's world right now, there's a lot of stuff going on with the hitter between his private coach and his internet Instagram account and his, we used to have our college coach, our high school coach, or dad or brother, or one of our old teammates look at us as a player and say, hey, maybe you do this with that leg kick of yours and maybe drop your hands a little. But now it's coming at you from a lot of different directions. And as a manager, as a hitting coach, as a head coach on that team, you have to understand where his information's coming from so you can, in fact, communicate with him in the language that he's been dealing. Does that make any sense? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a hitter, you know what I mean.
Yeah, walk him off the plank. Tell him you believe in him. Like, you're going to get opportunity to figure it out. That's just it's a funny part now, because when I played, that was a no-no. You don't go in that room because that room's got bad news. Like, you just don't go in there. Like, no. But nowadays, it's like, the players are knocking on the doors and saying things like, I think even Joey did this, saying that, it's not the player that I am, overlook this little small sample size. It's just, that's funny that you said it that way. But I want to sort of change gears and ask about Aaron Judge, quickest ever to 300. And I just want to ask about his size. You've been around a lot of tremendous hitters. Why is this so impressive? Because of his size, how tall he is.
Well, it's impressive because I'm sure, as you have mentioned, there's a sequential happening when you hit, and you have to have your body moving in the proper sequence at the right time in the right rhythm. And a larger body is often tougher to keep in rhythm and keep in sequence. So, his athletic ability, his flexibility, and his movement is so succinct that he's you don't see many 6'7" guys on the gymnast floor. You know what I mean?
He plays center field.
But you need that kind of flexibility and rhythm, strength, and timing in order to be the kind of hitter that he is, and to have that body move that way is really impressive. One other thing I want to say, just because those boys are BSing here about hitting a little, I really believe, and you'll see Ohtani also, and Judge and Ted Williams, and I had John Olerud, you might remember, who was 6'5", spectacular hitter. And I think once you get over a certain height, and I think the height is about 6 feet when you're standing, not when you're in your stance. So at that about 6 foot level, pitches that are thrown above that are few. The pitcher would have to throw uphill to hit Judge in his head. Okay? So he doesn't really have to worry about the ball that's coming at his head as much as other mere mortals do, who aren't 6 feet and above in their stance. And I used to talk to John Olerud about that, and he would kind of see a different part of the ball than a lot of the other hitters would see. Other hitters would look at the front part of the ball coming in, and he would see kind of some of the top and front of the ball, but never had to worry about seeing that front of the ball coming right at your face. And I think that's a distinct advantage for a hitter.
Awesome.
But most guys who are that tall can't get that hitting thing in sequence. You know what I mean?
Bobby, you managed in New York. What does it take to have a long career in that city with a team in New York? Now, I'm thinking of, obviously, Judge is the captain. I think we could say that.
Really good players. That's simple.
Okay, that's it, hey?
Right. Oh, yeah. You get good players, you could last a while in this game in the manager's seat.
What do you think has been the major contribution Juan Soto's made to Aaron Judge's season?
It divides that spotlight and has the opposition trying to compete against two of the most elite players to ever play the game of baseball, and they're from different sides of the plate, and you have to face them back to back, and they have different genius about them. Soto with his ability to see all the pitches, and Aaron Judge's ability to hit the ball 400 feet when you throw it in a certain spot. In his little go zone there, which is a little bigger go zone than other guys. But when you throw it in that zone, he hits it over the fence or against the wall or undresses an infielder, and it's really a danger zone. And when you have a Soto hitting in front of him, who is selective and also dangerous, you're working a little differently as a pitcher than you do to most lineups.
Bobby, really good of you to join us today. Thanks so much, man. Terrific insight as always.
Thanks,
you be
Bobby.
well.
Good talking, good rapping. Have fun, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
Bobby Valentine, MLB player and manager, Angels TV analyst. That's intriguing about height.
Yeah.
And
I think the only way you would know that is if you were that height and you were trying to figure out ways to get it in your strike zone. I mean, big dudes, even Judge, don't all the time like the ball up. Yeah. So because you're so tall, how do you figure out where that up is? I mean, he don't mind it up. It's just that sort of line of up, and then you trying to spin it down and away, right? He's like most right-handed hitters that don't like to spin her down and away, but that's intriguing. I think it's about talent and feeding off the fastball. I mean, he destroys fastballs. Like, he destroys them. He's like Soto. They destroy velocity and fastballs. Like, you can't throw it hard enough that they won't put their A swing on it. And I think that's the separator. I've been saying this about the Blue Jays. Like, until they get a lineup, at least, half of it, that destroys the good old number one, how do you take it serious? You don't. I mean, again, that's why the organization for the Yankees went out and got the dude that hits left-handed, who's the best left-handed hitter in baseball. That's why. Is because the best right-handed hitter in baseball can't do it by himself. He needs help. That's why you go out and get that. So, sort of, you can see how it relates. And I think it's funny that Bobby said, how do you live through New York? Good players. Ain't rocket science.
I was thinking more about like the players themselves. Because I think there is a unique type of personality that has success in New York. And when I say success, I'm talking about long-term success, like a Derek Jeter like career. And I look, I haven't talked to Aaron Judge as much as I used to talk, interviewed Darren Jeter. I don't want to make it sound like we're friends, but I interviewed Derek Jeter when he played. But Derek Jeter had an amazing ability to be very professional, make eye contact with you, basically make you think that you're the only person in the room answering the question, and then just basically give a non-answer. But in a way that, you could use it. It's the same thing when you hear Aaron Judge being interviewed. They're almost identical. Just very matter of fact, not too emotional. Just do the thing, answer the question. Don't try to be too controversial.
Yeah.
Give people what they want. Give people a bit of your time and go away. And I think there is a real art to that in that city.
What you do off the field is almost as important as what you do on the field, kind of thing.
Well, yeah. Now they're different guys. Aaron Judge has been engaged to or married to or with the same woman for a long time.
Yep.
Derek Jeter had gift baskets, but he did. He had gift baskets. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying that they navigated their way around Manhattan a little differently. But the point is, they were able to maintain that level sense, and that's why the more I think about it, and I understand if I'm Juan Soto, it's going to come down to money. I get that. Man, if I'm Juan Soto, this is working so well right now.
It is.
As long as unless Juan Soto has to be the guy, which
he does. He wants to be.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about in terms of the media, the spotlight. I don't think he needs. I think he'd like to be the guy in terms of money. But I don't think he needs a spotlight. I mean, he played in Washington and San Diego. But, man, if I'm Juan Soto and that money is near what Aaron Judge is getting, I would really have to think twice about turning it down, because as long as I got that guy around me,
Well, I think, too, it's a lot about his agent that he has. You know, that agent tries to.
His agent and you know what? His agent needs a big offseason because last offseason was not the greatest.
Well, he's got the biggest name. He didn't have Soto on the market, I don't think, last year. So that it will help. The name's going to sell itself, and the production he's having this year will sell itself. And he's got the two New York teams. It's almost like you can just get out of the way. You started at a certain number, you know what the number should end up at, and you sort of get out of the way. It's about feeding your family first. I think that's probably where it'll start and end. But I'm with you. We always talk about Ohtani being the unicorn. I think the 6'7" dude that does it in New York, that's the unicorn. I used to try and do that. I'm not the smallest of guys.
Yeah, you asked the question earlier this year about game on the line, one at bat. You need it. You need a hit to win. Who do you want up there?
It might be Soto, no?
Well, I said, and the question was actually whether it's Ohtani or Judge. I got to put Soto in that conversation too.
You do?
I really do.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with any three. And, we're seeing the White Sox walk Soto to get the Judge before he hit the 300th.
So he is the fastest man to 300 career home runs.
It's crazy.
It makes
the short porch and right in Yankee Stadium's helped him a lot too, getting some cheap ones. And
it makes you wonder what would have happened if Aaron Judge could have been in the majors like 2 years before.
I just don't think he was ready. He was a little bit of a late bloomer. I think it was trying to, like Bobby was saying, trying to figure out a way to get all that connected, right? He's got a little launch angle in him with the way he's, he raises his leg. He doesn't kick his leg. He was kicking it in the minor leagues. Like, you got to work through that. And the only way you're going to do that is through experience. Yeah. How does a big league pitcher try and get you out? Can you consistently have your ace swing doing it with a leg kick instead of a leg raise like he's got now? Obviously, you can't do that consistently. So I think he's a late bloomer. Sky's the limit for that dude. He stays healthy. I wonder what number will end up at. That's the question.
I mean, I can't imagine him taking a run at the number. But, I guess it depends.
A couple hundred more?
I was going to say it depends how many more. Well, 500. But how many 60-homer seasons does he have in that body?
Oof.
And that's what I mean. He's not going to challenge Bonds.
Well, if Soto comes back, he'll probably be in right again. So that might help a little, right? He's not running around. He's not diving as much as he is in center. So that would help keep him on the field a little bit longer. I just wonder, what would the end number be? Who scares you the most? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Out of the three, who scares you the most?
Out of Judge,
Soto and Ohtani. You watch Ohtani's at bats.
Probably.
And
there may be some bias here because we see Aaron Judge a lot and we see him at the Rogers Center, but Aaron Judge would probably scare me the most. Aaron Judge would scare me the most.
It's like the Skeens thing in the All-Star game when Soto said, "I'll get you in at bat, dude. Don't worry about it." And he did it. It's like
But he's the different. I love Bobby Valentine's phrase, and I wrote it down when he was talking about they each have a different genius. Soto and Judge, they each have a different genius.
How could that look the next 5 years in a row with those two back to back? Wow.
You do that, you can almost fill in around the edges. You almost can.
Endless amount of money to spend, and
you can almost fill in around the edges with that.
That dude in New York, that other New York team's going to have something to say about it, though.
Yeah.
He going to ruin it, Jeff. He going to ruin it.
Who is?
The other guy in New York. He's going to ruin that. Come back to me and tell me what the Yankees came in at. I'll give you $1 more.
416-413-3959 is the back leg line. We are going to go to the back leg line when we come back. Your chance to leave questions, comments, observations for Barker. We've also got Jays tickets to give away to see the Jays and Angels at the Rogers Center, and we'll do that. Mike Scioscia joins us as well. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Hey, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. The Jays have today off before opening a 3-game series in Chicago against the Cubs at Wrigley Field.
Day games at Cubbies. That's fun.
I wonder if everybody still goes to the lodge at night. and then heads down to Wrigley.
Huh.
There's a lot of stuff that used to happen at the Lodge.
It's a lot of stuff that happens in Chicago.
Yeah, that's true. Chicago is, the whole thing about what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
Chicago owes Vegas an apology, or vice versa.
Oh.
Let me just see if the Lodge is still open. I saw a couple of Cy Young.
Is that where the clown room's at?
No, that's L.A. Yeah, it is. It's still open. I saw a couple of Cy Young winners get in a fist fight at the Lodge. I won't say who.
Nice.
Sometimes there's a crossover when one team's in town, just arrived in town, and the other team is.
Oh, is it against the other team?
Sometimes.
Oh, it's tremendous. I saw a Cy Young Award winner in a shower in his birthday suit, just getting after. Man, not a chance.
Player?
I'm telling you. Yeah,
Where they were fighting?
Oh, absolutely. It was great. Where's the popcorn? It was tremendous.
Go get him, Gibby.
It was awesome.
Get him, Gibby. 416-413-3959 is the back leg line. Your chance to leave questions, comments, observations for Kevin Barker. Mike Scioscia joins us at 5:30. We're going to talk a little baseball in the Olympics, and I've got Jays Angels tickets to give away. But with no further ado, whatever. Let's go to the back leg line. Mark in Mississauga had a question.
Why don't, when Shapiro or Adkins have their press conference, why don't they get asked some tough questions?
Oh, stop it.
Why do you need 3 hitting coaches and multiple assistants in the dugout?
Everybody asks that all the time.
They keep running it back and say they have, they believe in their players and everything. Yeah. But if what I can remember, in 9 years, they've never re-signed their own free agents. They just let them walk. And why do they need to have 5, 6 guys play multiple positions when most successful teams have guys playing one position or maybe 2? But we seem to have guys that play multiple positions, and none of them are any good. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Love the show. Take care. Bye.
Appreciate the call.
I think we asked tough questions.
Well, I don't know about that. You know what? Mark, to your point about why do you have, Mark and Ross were both asked about, evaluating how the organization goes about doing things, and their response is that they're always evaluating how the organization goes about doing things. Now, that's kind of a normal answer to things. In terms of not re-signing their own players, that's an interesting point. I wonder how many organizations would have Bo and Vladdy at the same time and not have one of them signed up to at least buy out a couple of those free agent years. That remains a mystery to me. I don't know if it's anything philosophical. I mean, I can't imagine that you'd be having a $235 million payroll and saying, okay, we're not going to sign our core guys. But I don't know, maybe, until this year, well, I'll ask you, Kevin, and we'll talk about the utility players. Until this year, if I'd said to you, give Vladdy, I'm just going to pull a number out of my hat. Yeah, so 7 years, $300 million.
No.
You wouldn't have. Yeah.
No. It's too big.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what he's asking for, or what
I think he's asking for that now.
Right. But what I'm saying.
A year ago, I don't think that's what he would be asking for.
But I don't think I don't think it was a whole hell of a lot less. I think with Vladdy, it's always been around 7 years. It wants to be one of those contracts.
So low twos would have got it done.
I'm going to say that. No, I don't know about that. I'm going to say that in.
We'll never know.
No, I'm going to say that in defense of the front office. As far as the utility players go, it's a way of controlling your payroll cost. And you're saying, well, Jeff, you just finished saying it's a $235 million payroll. You know what? When you're running out $95 million worth of starting pitchers, and you've got a free agent, Springer, who's making that much money, and you've got Bo and Vladdy, who at some point will make money, you're going to need cheap guys. You're going to need a couple of Spencer Horowitzes on your team. The problem that I see with the Jays right now is they got 5 Spencer Horowitzes in the team, and they all happen to be in the field at the same time. And I'm just pulling Spencer Horowitz out. 5 guys who I don't think would be everyday players on any other team in the American League East on the field.
Well, you hope that what Spencer's doing in the cleanup spot's not talking them into going, we found our cleanup hitter. Boy, let's hope that doesn't happen. Like,
there's always that chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a reason why they're hooking him up to weights in a batting cage and letting everybody see it. There's a reason why that's happening.
What do you mean?
Oh, they hooked him up to they hooked him up to weight. How many? You ever seen a dude stand in a batting cage on the road, hooked up to weights, 45-pound weights? No.
Okay,
they're trying to basically tell you that he's hitting, and we think he's got more in the tank and can pull balls in the air in the seats. Everything's done with a purpose. That's why. And they found a little hidden money here with the Horowitzes of the world who can, hit a fastball the other way and now can pull a breaking ball in the air for a homer. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, it's, again, just the roster 1 through 26 is just not good enough. Like, that's the fact now. And hopefully, however you want to come to that realization is how you're going to come to it. I've never really been in the room every single day and know why they don't re-sign people that were here. It's whether, some of them I know wanted to be here and the organization didn't want them here. But
yeah. No, I mean, Marcus Semien, one of those guys. But I mean, Marcus Semien, you weren't going to Teoscar Hernandez. Marcus Semien wasn't. You weren't going to match the money Texas gave him.
Why not?
But perhaps if you had been really aggressive in approaching him during the year, he might have signed. But it has to be a philosophical thing.
Not sure you can platoon your way to the playoffs consistently all the time. Now, again, the conversation when, the GM did come out at the beginning of the season and say we believe in the core and the coaches. The coaches part is trying to figure out how he's going to match up the pin in the right pocket and figure out when they get the right lefty or right righty in the lineup against the right dude at the right time. That's what he's talking about. Like, you got to read between the lines here. And again, I get back to that. Look at all the good teams. You're writing the lineup in. Like, it's me against you. Most of the time, I'm better than you are.
Yeah, I looked at that lineup last night, and I'm trying to find.
There's one.
There's one guy that makes the Orioles.
There's one.
Maybe a couple that make the Red Sox.
The Rays, a different story. They like that platooning thing, lefty-righty matchup.
And the Rays would also take Alejandro Kirk, and he'd end up stealing 63 bases because they're the Rays. Or they'd take Varsho, and he'd end up being 35-300.
That is the question. I love that you brought his name up, Jeff. Where did I write that down at? Love that you brought Dalton Varsho up. Can you explain?
No.
Why against lefties? He's hitting .303 with an 870 OPS, 876 OPS, and righties he's hitting a .184 with a 658 OPS. Can you explain the difference? Now, obviously, he's facing way more righties than he is lefties. He's basically an everyday guy. When KK was here, he'd get an occasional day off against the lefty. They'd flip-flop that. How do you get those two numbers closer together?
I'd have to see which lefties he's matched up against. I mean,
that's a decent sample size, 76 at bats.
I
mean, he looks comfortable, and he doesn't look like he's overthinking it.
It's almost, yeah. I mean, it's almost as if
he pulled a lefty fastball that's the top of the zone last night.
There are,
why are you doing it against righty?
There are times where I find with Varsho that and this might be mostly against righties. I just think I'm not going to say he doesn't stay within himself. There are times where it's almost like he's reaching against righties. He's reaching for something that isn't there. And
somebody's told him he's a pull hitter. Pull hitters have to open up the front side. They got to get it going. They got to get it down open. That's why. I mean, it's not, again. And they think right hand, I face a lefty. What does every lefty say against that lefty? Every hitting coach has ever said, keep your front side in.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what he throws, how hard he throws. Keep your front side in. Think left center. Think left center.
Yeah. Greg in Edmonton, Alberta.
you may have talked about this already. I'm just tuning in, but yeah, I was just wondering about Bo Bichette and why he has seemed so disinterested in playing with the Blue Jays this year. Yeah, if you could, if you have time, comment on that. I'd be interested in hearing more about Bo Bichette and what his future with the Jays looks like, if there is one. Thanks. Bye.
I mean, we've talked about it in the past, maybe not recently because he's been hurt. I mean, I think right now, if I had to rank Bo coming back without a new contract, Bo being traded, or Bo getting a new free agent deal, I would go 1, Bo being traded, 2, Bo coming back with the same contract, 3, Bo coming back with a new deal that buys out his free agency.
Yeah, if they want to run it back, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I don't know how that's going to work because I absolutely believe that Bo Bichette needs a change of scenery. I think everything we've seen, tells us that. And I don't know I'm not in the clubhouse enough to know what the reason is. I just know what I hear.
Yep.
And he's not happy here.
No, there's some tension between him and the front office. I think the conversation in an off season, you need this. Can you go out and help us? We need help.
I think Bo also,
Bo likes to win too. So that's when you're not winning, you're not performing. You thought you had a conversation and everybody was on the same page, headed in the same direction. That didn't pan out. You looking for Ohtani, you have to pivot. What's the pivot? The pivot was basically nothing.
Yeah, there was no pivot.
Say it.
There's no pivot.
That's
from
what
Ohtani.
it was.
San Francisco tried to get him. There's no pivot for San Francisco. I mean, they're just that's just unfair. That's completely. There's no pivot from Shohei Ohtani.
There's no plan B. You go out and get a 39-year-old Turner, you bring back a retiring Kiermaier.
Yeah,
you get an IKF to play third every single day.
I don't think there was a plan B in free agency. I mean, I'll put it this way. If they didn't go after Shohei Ohtani, okay, do you think they would have done anything different? Because they're not getting Soto. They don't have the minor league system to get Soto. So let's just say that the Jays come out and say, you know what? We're not interested in Shohei Ohtani. Doesn't come down to the minor league complex, all of that, because we know that he's not signing here. And do you think that they do that and the offseason changes any? It doesn't, because what you're saying to me then is these guys are so incompetent that they can't sit there and say, hey, here's what we do. We got 100 people in the office. You 40 work in Shohei Ohtani. Actually, we only need 2 to work in Shohei Ohtani. Let's be clear, because that deal's done at the ownership level.
I think
you guys work on Ohtani. The rest of us do this.
I think they really did put a lot of emphasis on people that, quite frankly, they shouldn't have put it all on. That's what I think.
You could still do that and find other things. The problem is that they don't have enough to trade. Like the only free agent out there, Cody Bellinger's not going to do anything for you. Right? Cody Bellinger's not going to make a difference.
No.
Like who out there of the free agents would have made a big difference to this team? The only alternative to Shohei Ohtani for the Toronto Blue Jays to markedly improve would have been to go out and trade for somebody, and they don't have the depth to do it. So I'm going to call BS in that whole argument that they paid too much attention to Shohei Ohtani.
Okay.
And then when it was done, they went, there's nothing else out there.
Okay, they have assets this offseason to trade for some things. Now you're getting it.
No, but
okay, you might be right about that.
That's
with why they think.
We're not talking about that. I'm talking about last offseason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This idea that they wasted their time going after Shohei. There's nothing else out there. They weren't getting Juan Soto. That was not going to happen. They didn't have the minor league depth to do it. They don't have anybody, even after all those trades they made, right? All those trades they made at the deadline. They're one of the teams that doesn't have a prospect in MLB Pipeline's top 100. And again, I know rankings don't mean jack squat, but they kind of do.
A little, yeah.
So this idea that they missed the boat because they were focused on Ohtani is
Yeah, you can understand how fans will be a little frustrated. It's 2 off seasons in a row, though, Jeff. I get your point, and you're probably right.
No, I don't understand why
That's the point.
I don't understand. I don't think smart fans can be frustrated at the Ohtani thing, other than I guess they could say, one, okay, you were willing to spend that money on Ohtani. Why aren't you willing to spend it on Vladdy? The answer is obvious, because Shohei Ohtani is a business decision that brings in great gobs of money. Vladdy Jr., God love him, doesn't bring in great gobs of money. He just doesn't. You're not going to wake up and suddenly find yourself with 100 companies from Japan wanting to sign promotional deals with you because you signed Vladdy to a 10-year contract. It's not happening. So I think fans are smart enough to realize that. I think fans are smart enough to realize that this team just doesn't. They've done a bad job of drafting. They've done an so-so job of developing. They've done an awful job of keeping people healthy. And I think most fans look at that and go, it's no wonder they can't make a big trade, because they just don't. They don't have enough that anybody wants. I mean, even now, what does this organization have you'd really want? Who's going to bring in a thumper?
Bo.
That's it. Varsho isn't. Springer isn't, even if you pay all his salary. I mean, everybody in the minor leagues is hurt. Gossman, I don't know. Bassett, nope. Barrios, maybe, although I doubt it. Other than that, who's going to bring in Ryan McMahon? Who's going to bring in a middle-of-the-order bat?
I don't agree, but I agree with the part that you're saying about after the Ohtani thing. Who's left? You got a $235 million payroll. You've had that for quite some time. You've had 2 off seasons where you've had one of the worst offenses in baseball.
Yeah.
You've had a really good pitching staff. You had a really good bullpen a year ago. Yep. Not this year. It stunk, and you did nothing to solidify it when you lost your 8th and 9th inning guy. But, yeah, you're giving a little too much lenience when it comes to – you just bring in a 39-year-old Turner who you think can have another career year. What
was the option? What was the option? Find me somebody else. Come in.
I'm sure I could sit down and figure it out.
Bellinger?
No.
Float your boat?
He's got flaws.
Well, he was the guy that everybody was.
Not everybody in this room.
Well, most people.
Well, not everybody in this room.
Well, most people.
What? Who's most people?
Cody Bellinger was going to be the guy. He was the guy you were going to pivot to. I mean, let's just say the free agent class last year was not great.
Well, it's good this year.
Matt Chapman. Could have had Matt Chapman. I'm just looking at free agents.
Matt Chapman's predictable. He plays every day.
Matt Chapman make this team better? Are they what? They're 6 under 500 instead of.
No, a better bullpen makes this team better.
So let's see. Soler, Bellinger, Martinez. Looking at all these guys. Rhys Hoskins, maybe. Teoscar, maybe. Position players? I mean, Jeimer Candelario. It was not a great free agent class. It really wasn't. So I just.
Well, you ain't going to have no excuses in this offseason.
Grant from Saskatoon.
There's enough.
Grant from Saskatoon.
What are we going to do with Dalton Varsho? How can you have a 200 hitter batting second? Putting last night's results aside, don't we need to have our best hitters hitting 1, 2, 3? Thanks, guys. Love the show.
Yeah, Grant. If Bo was here, you'd have an argument. Who else they have?
Yeah, you're not moving Guerrero up there.
Joey Loperfido. Ernie Clement.
Captain Kirk.
I mean, Grant, I'm usually all over that, and I'm on your side about, you stack, you need aircraft carriers. And Jeff's probably right, as much as we hate to hear it, that he's right. He's probably right. This offseason, there's a plethora of dudes that you can get it.
Loperfido, Clement, Varsho have hit in the number 2 spot. Clement again, Horwitz. I mean, I like Horwitz in the number 2 spot, but I mean, I'm not going to go to war with somebody because Spencer Horwitz isn't hitting in the 2nd spot. I mean, I'm just not.
They ain't got nobody.
They don't have any.
Say it.
Yeah, it's probably the best.
It's a fair question, Grant.
Gordon Kingston.
My complaint has been about the people saying that when Vladdy hit all those home runs in 21, it's because he played in a bandbox in Buffalo. Has anybody stopped to compare the measurements of both ballparks? They're within 3 feet of each other. And even the center field is 404 to Buffalo to Toronto's 400. So comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, comment on that. One's an indoor park, one's an outdoor park. Ball flies differently in those parks.
It does. I mean, one of them's Dunedin. He had some games there. I mean, the wind's blowing the quadrillion miles an hour to right center. Like, what's the caller? Gord, it's a thing. I mean, he hit like 17 homers to right field. Some of those were wind blown in Buffalo and Dunedin. It's a fact of me.
It's not just distance.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying it's not. He's not legit and doesn't have talent. But you look at who was around him.
Yeah,
that for me is the more important part of that than the ballparks he plays in. I know Gord was getting a little frisky there, but you know hitting the ball the other way. Now, obviously, Vladdy's found something with the way he's driving the ball, and I asked John about that, and John said, the timing of the front foot and the hands has never been better. Like when he gets it down, it's torque, balance, and bat speed. That's what you're trying to maximize, and that all has to do with the separation of your hands, and he's getting a little bit of that. His separation is different, right? Most hitters have it going away from their head. His is the downward motion. It's just when he gets it back up, right? When he starts it up, his foot's supposed to be going in the opposite direction. That's his timing mechanism. That's basically like his trigger. When it's on time, it allows all those other things that's elite to take place, and now barrels just exploding to baseball, and that allows him to use the entire field. So, and I will get back to that, and Jeff will roll his eyes because he has it me many times. You look again, when he started slugging, they were out of it. When he was doing nothing, they were in it. Something to it.
Allie in London.
Just wanted to ask, when you look at Vladdy and how well he's been doing over the last while since the All-Star game, what do you think that he's worth? If we're really going to make a play to sign him, what kind of deal are we looking at to really bring him in and keep him in Toronto? Thanks, guys. Keep it up.
Thank you for the call. Look, Rafael Devers, I know they play different positions. He's getting 10 years and $313 million. I think that's what you're looking
right
at.
there.
Something in that range.
If you're Vladdy, you ain't taking less.
And I'm looking at Devers' contract. Now, the first year of his contract covered an arbitration year. That was $19 million. So his first non-arb year, $29 million. It's 29, 29, 29, 32, 32, 32, 32, 30, 30, 30, and he will be a UFA at the age of 37. That's what I think you're looking at.
Yeah. Boy, 29 is a lot a year, though. Man, that's a lot. I know it's a going rate for a 25-year-old who can do these things.
How much does George Springer make?
25.
It's $4 million more a year than George Springer.
A lot younger.
For a guy you're going to have in the middle of your
That's well said.
Middle of your lineups.
And
a guy who plays decent defense at first base. And who knows, maybe he's going to be at third base for you next year and you find another first baseman.
You watch your mouth.
You know there's somebody in that office. Just can't wait to see Vladdy at third base in spring training. Because then we can have maybe a platoon at first.
Oh,
maybe
man.
A Spencer Horwitz platoon and J.D. Martinez or something like that.
JD's not coming here.
I'm just saying.
Not a chance. He had his chance. And he dropped, I'd rather win a World Series.
10 years, $313 million. I've felt all along it would take 7 to 10 years. And I've got to be paying him. It's got to be around $31-32 million a year.
He's getting it from somebody.
Yeah.
I think you're right. You're all over it.
It's a rare time I don't necessarily agree with Pass, and I think someone will give him that money. But I also really want to see what Pete Alonso gets in free agency this year.
Pete Alonso's older. Vladdy's like the youngest dude to 150 at his age. Like that's something.
Yeah. No, it makes
something.
It makes a big difference.
I stick him right in the middle of the order. He's going to not hurt my team with the position he plays. And he plays every day.
I want to give some tickets away.
Try.
I want to give some tickets away before Mike Scioscia joins us.
Those are good calls, though.
They were.
Jeff was right twice.
Blind squirrel.
It's rare.
Clock.
I hated that you were right
Clock is
about
right
that
twice a day.
with the Ohtani thing because you're spot on. That's a tough listen. It's a tough listen with what their payroll is
but it's
and what their needs are. Their needs are obvious.
But again, I get back to I'm glad they didn't. I don't know about you. I got Cody Bellinger for 5 years or whatever. Like
you knew that wasn't happening. You're a better baseball guy than that.
No, but everybody wanted it. Cody Bellinger was everybody's number 2 choice.
You talk to people around here, not everybody.
We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here on Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Standard message and data rates, they may apply. Our last question and answer was, this Angel was traded to the Blue Jays in 2011 but never played a game for them. Later in his career, he found his way back to the AL East as a member of the Boston Red Sox. The answer was Mike Napoli. I think he found out when he was on a cruise or something like that. There's some sort of weird story about it. Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays.
Huh? I don't like the water enough to go on a cruise. You like cruises?
That's like a floating petri dish. Not a chance. Not a chance.
You like to eat, boy.
Yeah, man. I don't. You know what though? I don't like
24 hours a day.
Yeah, I don't want to.
It's not my cup of tea, but whatever floats your boat.
I don't want to eat with the same people all the time. Like I
they're
said,
big enough that you wouldn't have to do that.
Like I said, I just don't want. I don't want to be in a boat with. Someone gets sick and it just goes through there like a dose of salts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I do one of those river cruises. You know, those little, river cruises through the Rhine River in Germany. And those
that sounds like boats. You'd have to do some rowing. You have to help?
No, you don't have to help. It's a smaller boat. I would do those. I'm not going to go on like one of those god-awful contraptions, 16 layers, the Titanic type
thing.
When
you move there, you can do it. Send me a photo.
Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays. When I move where?
To Germany. Wherever you mentioned.
Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays and Angels. Portugal,
I missed you.
Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays and Angels at the Rogers Center on Saturday, August 24th. This starter, now this is a good question.
Never got this.
This guy's one of my unbelievable, one of the best arms I've ever seen. This starter, who only played for the Blue Jays and Angels in his MLB career, left Toronto as a free agent after the 2003 season. He set a career high with 18 wins with the Angels in 2007. This guy, just talk about live arms. Again, this starter, who only played for the Blue Jays and Angels in his MLB career, left Toronto as a free agent after the 2003 season. He set a career high with 18 wins with the Angels in 2007. You can text the answer to 590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. And once again, standard massage, just like saying it, standard message and data rates may apply. Mike Scioscia joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, the Fan of Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to the stretch drive of Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, the Fan and Sportsnet. What am I doing here with my headphones and stuff? Stuff's not working. The Jays are off today, and they'll be back tomorrow, opening a 3-game series in Chicago against the Cubs. They're coming off a 3-game sweep of the Los Angeles Angels in Anaheim, capped off by a 9-2 win last night. Well, you know, of course, that the Olympics have just concluded and that the next Olympic Games will be held in Los Angeles. And there is growing chatter, and particularly since the Olympics are being held in the United States, growing chatter about whether or not we may see major league players in the LA Olympics. Now, I've talked about this. I'm conflicted. I understand, look, the NBA players, the impact that's had on the Olympics. If you look at the Olympic Games when NHL players are in it in hockey, I get all that. I just don't know, because of the nature of the sports and because of the time frame, whether or not it's realistic for major league players to be in LA during the Olympics. But I do know this, that if it were to happen, our next guest, there might be a chance that he would end up managing the team. He's managed the U.S. Olympic team at Tokyo 2020. He is currently managing the U.S. team in the U.S. national team at the World Baseball and Softball Confederation Premier 12 Championships. He is Mike Scioscia, former MLB manager, catcher, joining us on Blair and Barker. Mike, thanks so much for taking time out to talk to us today. It's great to see you. You're looking good. A lot to talk to you about, but I wanted to start out with talking about the possibility of Major League players taking part at the Olympics. You've seen what is involved in this logistically. You've managed a Major League team. You've played. How realistic do you think it is to contemplate the possibility of Major League players in LA?
Well, it's great to be with you guys. I think, first and foremost, I think you said it at the outset, it would take a major commitment from MLB to shut down the season for a 2 to 3 week period, which when we went to Japan, the Japan Major League team committed to that. They came out with a terrific team. I'm not sure if it's going to be feasible, given the given the pressure to finish a schedule on in a certain amount of time. The schedule's already packed as it is, and you can't really start any earlier, and you can't really finish any later than you do than the first week in October as it is now.
It's funny because I've covered a couple of Olympics. I've covered the Olympic soccer competition, and it's kind of, for the longest time, it tried to find an identity. And what was eventually settled on, as you well know, was it's basically an under-23 tournament with, I think, 3 or 4 players grandfathered in. So in other words, if you're Lionel Messi, maybe he wants to have a shot at winning an Olympic medal. He can play with essentially what is an Argentine under-23 team. Do you think there's any way that maybe we could see, I don't know if it would be like a team full of prospects or, but some sort of mix, instead of just saying we're only going to use guys who aren't on the 40-man roster, maybe allowing some prospects, guys who haven't had Major League service time yet, to play on a team with, guys like Todd Frazier or veterans who want to take a shot at this. Do you think that maybe that might work?
Yeah, I think that's already in play. I don't know about teams committing to 40-man roster guys. I think there's no reason why if a guy's in the minor leagues on a 40-man roster, he wouldn't be eligible. But teams have a little different feeling about that. We kind of had that in Tokyo. I mean, we had Todd Frazier and Edwin Jackson and, a lot of guys that were, ex-Major League players and good Major League players that were on our roster. And I think we really filled it with a lot of young Major League players coming up that are playing very well in the Major Leagues right now. So I think that blend is there. I think that's most likely, if I'm going to take a guess at which way it's going, I think that's the way it'll go for the Olympics in 28 is the same blend of high caliber minor league talent. I agree with you. 40-man roster guys would be great. And some of the guys in the back end that maybe aren't on a 40-man roster of the Major League club or aren't in Major League with a Major League club that are maybe in transition for that year, getting an opportunity to play and fill out a roster. So I think that might be the way it'll go.
Mike, how do you manage things like this? Do you manage it just like you used to manage a Major League Baseball game? And how do you prepare for something like this?
Well, I hope I'm going to do it a lot better than I did a Major League Baseball game, but
you were great.
You were awesome. Don't undersell yourself. Don't undersell yourself.
Tremendous.
There's a lot of preparation in the whole really roster building. It really comes down to roster building and trying to get the best pitching staff you can. What I found, these games are really intense. Kevin, these are like playoff games. You lose one game, we had to go down to qualify down in Florida and had some terrific teams. I mean, you had teams from Dominican, Canada had a terrific team. You're playing Venezuela. We had to qualify first, and if you lose a game there, you're up against it. We were fortunate enough to qualify and go over to Tokyo. These are high-intensity playoff-style games, so I think you're gonna make moves accordingly as to where a game is and try to give your team the best opportunity to win.
How about communication? Is it harder, younger kids, people you don't know? I know you managed. When you managed, I'm sure you knew most of those players that you're around. You had a good feel for that. Like that communication factor back and forth. Is that tougher for you now?
You got to make a quick study. Absolutely. talking to players or communicating them, that's not an issue. That's fine. But understanding a player, understanding on a 3-2 count, can you put a guy in motion because you know this player is going to put the ball in play. When you have a team that you've built and you're with them for a long time, some pieces will come and go, but the core players, you know exactly what they're capable of doing against a certain pitcher, and you can make decisions along those lines. So much easier when you have your own team. You know the players better. This one here, you really have to make a quick study and just try to make some common sense decisions that can help you.
Mike, I understand that there isn't a one-size-fits-all thing here, but when you're managing young players now in this, and I'm thinking of the 2024 the tournament or the Olympics, whatever, is there a difference between the young player of today and the young player even of 10 years ago, even a young major leaguer? And what would that difference be?
Yeah, I think there are definitely some differences. I mean, if you look at just some of the positional changes, the way catchers are going about their business, what players have been told is really important as far as OPS and slugging. These guys are brought up under that umbrella, and they're trying to use that talent to make a path for themselves. But there's one common denominator that hasn't changed, and that's these guys want to achieve. They want to win. The guys I've talked to want to play as a team. They want to do the things you need to do to win as a team. But there's no doubt that from a pitching side, strikeouts have become more of a focus for a pitcher. And from the hitting side, batting average has kind of taken a back seat to some of the other parts of what production can be. And I'm not so sure that's great. When I hear guys talk about batting average and it's not important, I just don't. I don't buy that. I think guys that went through the Oakland organization, they really put a heavy offensive viewpoint on getting on base and slugging the ball. But when you talk about on base percentage as being part of OPS, and that's really the standard bearer of way of offensive players is evaluated now, the biggest part of on base percentage is your batting average. So I think that's, I think it's kind of contradictory to say batting average isn't that important, because in the scheme of what you're looking at, batting average is right in the middle of it.
Now, you were around the Vladdys as a whole, right? Vladdy Sr., and you're starting to see Vladdy Jr. now do the things that I think his dad was doing for a very long time. What's the correlation between the two? Like, do you see some similarities? Or can you like close your eyes and watch the young one and you're like, man, boy, it looks just like the old one does?
Well, I've known Vladdy Jr. I've been around him since he was like 4 or 5 years old. And, you could just see this guy walk differently than a lot of young kids. He had a lot of confidence. Vlad Sr. was just a different athlete. He's a different offensive player than I've ever been around. And Vlad Jr. is creating his own path. There are definitely some similarities. I think that maybe Vlad Sr. was a little bit more of an aggressive hitter as far as, if he saw something that he could reach, it was a good pitch for him to hit. It didn't matter where it was. I think Vlad Jr. has a little better idea of what he's looking for, and still has that unbelievable bat speed, and that ball comes off the bat hot. So there are some similarities there, but I think that in the long run, Vlad Jr. is going to put up his own numbers and make his own way.
I always remember doing an interview with Mickey Hatcher when Vlad Sr. was there, and the description, and I covered Vlad when he came up with the Expos. I remember Mickey saying it's like watching a tennis player at the plate.
Yeah.
Just because of his ability to hit, to
Reach
make contact with the ball. He says you might as well send him up there with a tennis racket, because it's just, and that's always stuck with me. And that really is Vlad Sr., wasn't it? I mean, he literally could hit anything.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen anybody swing so hard and make such good contact. I played with some great hitters, Pedro Guerrero, Steve Garvey, Ron Say. You talk about a lot of great hitters that you played with, Kirk Gibson. Nobody I've ever seen swung the bat as hard as Vlad did and made such good contact. It was just a God-given gift, and it was fun to watch when we had him, no doubt.
Mike, it's really good of you to join us today. Thank you so much. Terrific insight, and best of luck in the tournament. Be well.
Yeah, have fun. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Great being with you.
Take care. Mike Scioscia, who is a very good manager.
Absolutely.
Despite his self-deprecation.
Yeah.
And also, covering him when he played, Mike Scioscia, holding the ball at home plate, guy coming around third base.
Want some of this? Yeah.
Someone told, I'm trying to remember which Expos player it was, slid into him, and he slid and just stopped. It might have been Joe. I wonder if Joe Hesketh was a guy. It was a pitcher, and I don't know if he broke his leg, broke his ankle. But I was told that sliding into one of Mike Scioscia's legs was like, someone described it as sliding into an oak tree.
Yeah.
He had the biggest legs I have ever seen. He was, and I'll tell you what, and I was not a huge Dodgers fan. Loved watching Mike Scioscia play.
Yeah.
Loved watching Mike Scioscia.
Yeah, I wonder how hard this will be for him because of analytics and how quickly these young people get information. Yeah. Like chemistry is a big thing, right? When you see him, you want to get chemistry as quick as you can. Obviously, talent is first and foremost. But how do you sell it to a young person who can get the information as quick as they can?
You know what? I think it probably helps that a lot of these young guys are comfortable talking about, like they've come up thinking OPS and OPS plus and weighted runs created plus. I mean, this is part of this is how they talk about baseball.
Yeah.
Even Carlos Correa. You think back to that interview a couple of years ago where Carlos Correa talked about, hey, I look at weighted runs created plus. I mean, and I think that all of those guys who come up now, especially guys who come through the college ranks, where, those programs like Vanderbilt and all that, I mean, they're like laboratories. I think they're really comfortable dealing with that. But I also really think, and I've had too many people tell me this for it not to be true, that I think when you put the jersey of your country on, regardless of the sport, it has a way of creating a unity on your team. Because even though you may be sitting in a clubhouse with a guy who kicked your ass in the SEC tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter now.
No.
And, I like getting back to what Mike said. I think maybe we've come on to something there. And I think maybe Mike is right about that. If you picture this, okay, so you're not going to be able to take players off the 40-man roster.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you take the prospects or good minor leaguers. Like I'm thinking of a Bloss or something. Like guys who are good minor leaguers, and you put them in this competition. And if I'm an organization,
you'd watch that. You'd watch that.
Oh, you know what? Absolutely. And I thought about this again. The Olympic soccer competition. I mean, no one wanted to watch the Olympic soccer competition. Then they had the idea of making it purely an under-23 tournament and allowing teams to have a couple of older players on it. So, you would have the German team would be their under-23 team with maybe a guy like Thomas Muller, a veteran player. I think it would work.
Yeah.
I think it would absolutely work.
I'm not in that camp. What the basketball team did is you see all the greatest players all on the same team. I understand why, but it probably can't happen.
You can't do that because of the timing. The other thing is,
don't do it.
The other thing is, as well as I do, the chances of getting hurt in an exhibition baseball game are greater than the chances of getting hurt in an exhibition basketball game. Nobody in an exhibition basketball game, okay, yeah, you might have the odd knee injury but nobody in an exhibition basketball game is blow out a UCL, blow out their shoulder, blow out their elbow. There are just too many things that can happen in the course of a baseball game that have nothing to do with contact.
So just don't do it. I'm in the camp, don't do it. I mean, if you're sitting there, it's like the Hall of Fame. If you're sitting around trying to, talk me into a Hall of Famer and you're trying to talk me into ways to at least get in the USA in it, just don't do it.
No, but
I want the best of the best. I want to see what it looked like.
Well, you're never going to have the best of the best.
That's what I'm saying. If I can't have it, I don't want it.
You would not.
No, I don't want it.
You would not like to have seen Paul Skeens take on the best Japanese pitchers?
Well, now we can't see that.
The best Japanese hitters?
No, I want to see Paul Skeens, but I want to see, Bryce Harper and Judd. Like, that's what I want to see. If I can't see it, I don't want it. Don't try to talk me into it.
I mean, I think it's that
I'm greedy.
The other thing at work here is I'm a big believer that generally anything the International Olympic Committee touches turns to crap.
It does.
And I really think, and I've made this argument with hockey. Hockey players will risk career-ending injury to play in an Olympic tournament that, it's not going to add to their livelihood, right? It's not. You're going to get, you win an Olympic medal. That's great. You're making $16 million. I mean, it's just not going to add to your $16 million. No hockey players making $60 million. The net gain to me for a professional athlete is it's just not worth it. And I've always said, I don't get why hockey players and why ownership don't get together and have a proper World Cup and don't do this stupid Team USA, Team Under 21. I mean, that's garbage. Put together a legitimate World Cup of hockey, play it every 2 or 4 years, and keep the money. And that's what I would like to, and that's what baseball's done with the World Baseball Classic. The World Baseball Classic has potential. It really has potential. Edwin Diaz gets hurt this year. I'll tell you the difference. If an injury like Edwin Diaz's had happened in the first year of the World Baseball Classic, everybody would have gone, that's it, man. We can't do this anymore. Too much of a risk. Now everybody goes, well, it's risky, but there's nobody running around saying, let's not do it anymore.
Well, he stunk sense.
Yeah, but nobody's running around and saying, let's not do it anymore. It's bad that he got hurt. Nobody's saying we can't have the World Baseball Classic. And so I think you take the World Baseball Classic and grow that. And I'd like to see them take the World Baseball Classic, play the entire thing over in Asia one year. Or play games over in Europe and play games in Asia. You don't always need to have them. You can have the championship game if you want at Dodger Stadium. But you have to play all the other games in North America. I understand you'd have to make it fit the TV schedule and everything, but I'd rather make the World Baseball Classic work as opposed to putting teams to shutting down my schedule and risking injuries for the Olympics. And again, I get back to this. It happens around the trade deadline. The hell? You're going to have the Olympics on the trade deadline? Anyhow. But it's a good discussion. And I understand why baseball people would be intrigued by the concept. I
think the passion that the basketball team showed and how excited they were to play together and win it. And I think that was like sort of man, you can dream. You killed the dream, but you can dream. It ain't going to happen. Timing's a problem. And if I'm an owner, I'm not letting my best players. That's just not happening.
That gets bad.
I have the best player and I'm trying to win a World Series and I'm going to make tons of money if my team's in the World Series. He ain't playing in that. Yeah. So I'm with you. But it's still, you can close your eyes and dream a little bit, can't you? Way to go, Jeff.
You're blaming me. You just finished telling me you weren't going to you wouldn't watch Olympic baseball.
No, I said
if it wasn't the best. And I'm saying there's a way to have baseball out there to have great baseball players without needing the major leaguers.
And you're killing the dream. You said the classic. Playing for my country.
Killing the dream.
Killing the dream. That's not how I said it.
Man, oh man. I'm so glad I came back today.
Well, you should be.
No Blue Jays baseball today, which means no Blue Jays talk.
Man, you excited?
It also means no loss tonight. So the Jays will get back.
They're winning.
Yeah, they are.
You said it matters. They're above 500.
Hammered the Angels. Well done. First of 3 games against the Cubbies tomorrow will be radio only with Blue Jays talk. We'll be back Monday, though, so don't worry. Have yourself a great day.